Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. We're presented by CLNS Media. Today on the show, it's the return of Tony Jones. Tony, it's been a long time, man. Where have you been?
About me.
Where have you been all my life?
Well, where have you been? You've been languishing, doing just terrific stuff on college basketball, pro basketball. I mean, you're like Mr. Versatility, and me, I'm just here in my corner in little old Salt Lake City, Utah, just trying to survive.
Yeah, you got cold weather there. It's been terrible in LA. It's been like raining for the last week, it seems like.
Okay, I was just in Minneapolis, so I don't want to hear it.
Oh God, that's terrible. I have to go to Minneapolis in March for the Final Four, and I am not looking forward to that. But, oh God, I can only imagine what is happening if you have to go to Minneapolis in the middle of February.
Well, I was in that big freeze where, for those couple of days, it was colder here than it was on Mars. I was in that.
Oh my God, that's misery. That is such misery. I saw there was a 100-degree difference at one point between Los Angeles and Chicago. And I was like, oh wow, that does not sound normal. Yeah,
for sure.
So we're going to talk about mostly NBA trade deadline stuff on this podcast. We're going to talk the continuing revolving door of leaks and information that keeps coming out about Anthony Davis. We're going to talk about Lonzo Ball thinking that he's going to dictate where he gets to go. We're going to talk about the Kristaps deal just a week out. I know that I happened to be podcasting last time with Cole right as the deal went down, so you guys kind of know my thoughts on it, but it's worth revisiting. We're going to talk about the Memphis guys, Mike Conley and Marc Gasol. I feel like they're the next two biggest move pieces at this deadline. We might talk about a couple of other NBA trade deadline things, and then we're also going to talk about some college guys because that's something that is near and dear to Tony's heart as well. Let's start with Anthony Davis, though. So over the last, I would say, 5 days, we've just gotten a total mess of leaks about Anthony Davis and about, where does he want to go? He released a 4-team list to the teams that are trying to the Pelicans and to, maybe teams that are trying to acquire him. It has the Lakers, it has the Knicks, it has the Clippers, and it has the Bucks. Anthony Davis's dad on Friday came out and said he does not want to go to Boston in rather hilarious fashion. It just seems like Rich Paul is throwing as much shit at the wall as he can, trying
Rich
to
Paul
put pressure.
Was working overtime.
Yeah, trying to put pressure on the Pelicans to make this deal now.
It might work.
If it works, this is the most impressive.
What the Lakers offered today was not a bad offer. They offered Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, 2 first-round picks, Rajon Rondo, who they missed terribly from last year, and Michael Beasley and Lance Stevenson. If I'm Magic Johnson, if I'm Dell Demps, I'm really not that far apart because I can either say, hey, you either include Josh Hart or you include another first-round pick, or you say, okay, what are the odds that I can trade Anthony Davis for the first pick of the draft and Zion Williamson, or the odds that I can squeeze Jason Tatum out of this deal from Danny Ainge and the Boston Celtics. And I don't know how good those odds are. But if you have to start over, you're basically starting over with the entire Lakers core, and you're adding Drew Holiday to that. It's not, to me, a starting lineup of Kuzma, Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Drew Holiday, and whoever they can put at the center. It's not terrible to me. I just think, basically, if you're Dell Demps, just getting those 3 or 4 guys, getting 2 or 3 first-round picks, and on top of that, you're getting off of Solomon Hill's awful contract. That it's not horrible to me. It's certainly not the laughable, first deal that the Lakers put out there, and it's not all that dissimilar. Now, obviously, Boston could come in and just throw in a whole bunch of picks, but Rich Paul has submarined that. Now there's no chance that Boston offers that entire package now. Now that Rich Paul has really submarined that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I'm not. I don't think that the pick that they threw out there is all that terrible. The package they've thrown out there today is all that terrible.
So let's kind of break this down step by step. So you mentioned the deal, right? That's on the table, apparently. It's reported, just to give these guys credit, by Brad Turner at the LA Times. And I believe that Tanya Ganguly is also like kind of, reporting it as well with Brad, but I know that Brad threw the initial offer out there. So that exists. Like, that offer is out there in the ether, right? I've been saying from the start, I don't think that this is that bad of an offer. I think that if the Celtics and if the Knicks can't top it later on, then I think that this is a reasonable deal. It's not a great deal. Like, I don't think that they would be ecstatic to have gotten these guys for one of the three best players in the NBA. But I think that it's a reasonable offer that I don't know can be topped anywhere else other than by the Knicks and by the Celtics.
Right.
Here's the thing, though. Why don't you wait? If you're New Orleans, why don't you wait? Because, like, the Lakers aren't going to be sitting here in June going, oh, well, we didn't get Anthony Davis for this playoff run when we were going to lose to the Warriors with their, superstar lineup that now includes DeMarcus Cousins. Anyway, we shouldn't go after him now because he only has 1 year left on his contract. They're not going to do that. Of course they're not going to do that.
The problem with that is Rich Paul has said, Anthony Davis's father comes out and says, my son is not re-signing with the Celtics because of the way they treated Isaiah Thomas. Rich Paul has come out and said, we have this list and of teams that Anthony will sign with long term, and Anthony and the Celtics are not on that list. So why would the Celtics be motivated to offer their gaggle of picks and to offer Jason Tatum, which is what Dell Demps should really want, because Jason Tatum is a guy that we think at some point is going to be an All-NBA player. So if I'm Magic Johnson, if I just offered you everything that I offered, and maybe I throw in Josh Hart, maybe I throw in another first, and you don't take that, then my offer diminishes over the summer. To me, if you're Dell Demps, who's the general manager of the New Orleans Pelicans, if you wait until the summer, what you do is you wait and you see who wins the lottery, and you say, hey, you give me your first pick and you give me matching dollar for dollar to make the salaries work, and I'll give you Anthony Davis. And that's to me what I would do if you wait, if you're Dell Demps.
So I guess, again, what it comes back to is, yes, I would be waiting. I'm sure Magic Johnson is going to try and bluff that and say, like, oh, yeah, if you wait until the summer, you're not going to have this offer on the table. But at the end of the day, like, I still think the Celtics are going to be there trying to get Anthony Davis, right? Like,
I think they'll be there in some form, but they going to throw...
Okay, so say that they don't throw Jason Tatum in, right?
Right.
Say it's Jaylen Brown, it's Marcus Smart to make the salaries work, it's the Memphis pick in the future, it's the Clippers pick this year, it's all of this stuff. To me, that's still enough of an offer to where the Lakers have to top that by putting in all of Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, and Kyle Kuzma. Like, I still think that even if they don't offer Jason Tatum, the Lakers still have to top that Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart 3 first-round picks offer by throwing in everything that they have. Or say Toronto loses Kawhi Leonard or they keep Kawhi Leonard, Masai Ujiri doesn't play games. Like, if he thinks that, and plus, here's the other thing too, all of those guys' salaries are done after next year anyway. They have a couple of non-guarantees, I believe, on Kyle Lowry and Serge Ibaka, if I remember correctly. So they can just go all in next year for Anthony Davis, say, hey, we've got Kyle, we've got Serge, and then we're going to just cut bait with this core. And if we lose Anthony Davis, we lose Anthony Davis. Or if it doesn't work, we move him again at the deadline. Like, I think that they might be willing to throw in a Pascal Siakam and, OG Anunoby, which, again, makes you consider, which makes you, if you're the Lakers, top that offer by throwing in everything you have. Right. So I just don't see where the Lakers offer changes from now until June. And if that's the case, if I'm the Pelicans, I just wait until June to see who gets the number 1 overall pick. And I wait until July 1st to see where Kyrie Irving ends up. Because if Kyrie stays in Boston, I think the Celtics offer Jason Tatum.
Right.
So to me, it's just like patient, like be patient.
So what you're saying is you're not trading him to the Lakers before Thursday.
I'm not. No, I would not. Personally, I agree with you based off of
that's going to make some of my friends very sad.
Why?
Because I got, my best friend's a Laker fan. I got, there's a whole bunch of Laker fans at the gym that I hoop at. They're going to be very sad to hear to hear Sam on our Game Theories podcast say, there's just going to wait. And then, Laker Twitter is just going to come after you. I battled Laker Twitter about 72 hours ago, and the guy just told me to meet him in the streets. Oh,
you got to meet me in Temecula situation.
Yeah, the guy told me, and I was actually on a plane, and, he one of the Laker fans, he was just like, meet me in the streets, and I told him to bring his 90 followers. So... that part was fun.
Oh my god!
So I'm just
but here's the thing. Here's
what you're getting yourself into.
But I'm not saying
that you're taking.
I'm not saying that the Lakers shouldn't end up with Anthony Davis. Like, again, I think that there's a reasonable pathway for the Lakers to end up with Anthony Davis. I'm just saying, if I'm the Pelicans, I'm waiting because I just don't see this offer diminishing at any point. And if it gets to the point where we hear these rumors about Kevin Durant joining Kyrie Irving in New York. This is not, these aren't really state secrets at this stage. Like, this is a thing that really might happen. Also, by the way, Solomon Hill is apparently not starting tonight for New Orleans, so that makes this even more fun.
We already know what's going down. You already know.
But, if I am the Pelicans, there's just no reason for me to make this move now. I don't think. I'm being patient, and I get that there's also the argument of Anthony Davis. What happens if he decides that he wants to play the rest of the season because he wants to make All NBA? He wants to confirm basically that he'll be able to be like a supermax player, and I think that is a reasonable question that we don't necessarily have an answer to. I'm sure Rich Paul, that's a play for him, is to try and put pressure on the Pelicans by saying Anthony Davis is going to play. We want him to play. Anthony wants to play. So you're going to have to sit him. And I'm sure then that the Players Association is going to get involved. I'm sure that the league is going to get involved. If I'm the Pelicans, I'm willing to fight the Players Association and the league on this for these reasons. I will just say to the league, hey, you know what? Anthony Davis requested a public trade. You guys had to fine him because he requested a public trade. We're just, essentially keeping our asset healthy by doing this. We need to confirm that our asset, who we are going to take care of in the offseason when there is a more robust market for him, is still an asset for us then and is not getting injured. Anthony Davis has an extensive injury history. We want to make sure that this guy stays healthy. And based off of the fact that you guys fined him for this, look, I think we're doing what is well within our rights. And then the Players Association is obviously going to be very angry about this, but you might take a hit in terms of the players thinking hey, we don't want to go to New Orleans. Realistically, New Orleans doesn't have a history of guys wanting to go to New Orleans anyway. And the news cycle turns so fast in the NBA now that I think people forget about this. So that's the way that I play this. I say, hey, I'm taking Anthony Davis into the offseason with me. I'm taking that 14% roll of the dice that the Knicks win the number 1 overall pick and end up being able to trade us Zion Williamson. And I'm just kind of rolling from there.
Well, the thing, I will say this. The biggest argument of waiting is Zion Williamson, right? Because right now, realistically,
I think so.
Zion Williamson, realistically, right now, today, is the best player that you can you can get out of this trade if you're the New Orleans Pelicans.
I agree. I would rather have him than Jason Tatum for what it's worth, especially if you're the Pelicans, because this is something I've talked about before, but Zion is going to be one of the 3 biggest stories in the NBA next season. By getting Zion Williamson, not only do you get a player that I think is going to be an all-star, but you stay incredibly relevant in the NBA by getting Zion.
Superstar.
Yeah.
Zion's going to be a superstar. He's, barring injury, he's too big for anybody. He's too big for anybody that's fast enough to guard him, and he's too fast for anybody that's big enough to guard him.
Yeah, I think he is the best prospect since Anthony Davis.
Yes, I'm with you there. He is far more. He is incredibly skilled for his size. He's far more skilled than I gave him credit for coming into this season. He handles the basketball like a point guard. He passes like a point guard. He defends. He moves his feet. Plus, he's 6'7", 280 pounds. He's basically like a Charles Barkley with Charles Barkley athleticism when you remember how athletic Charles Barkley was in his prime. But he has point guard feet, and he handles the ball like a point guard, and he passes the ball like a point guard. Yeah. He is without a doubt. I think he's a can't miss prospect if he stays healthy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think there are health concerns, but I think that we should just talk very quickly about like what the Lakers offer is, right? Like we kind of talked about it a second ago, but like, again, I think it's like an actual pretty real offer. I am still in on Brandon Ingram. Like I get that people are quickly leaving that island, but I think that the adjustment to play with LeBron is incredibly hard, and he's still 21 years old or 20 years old. Like I feel a lot of confidence in him still becoming like a very, very good player. Maybe like a borderline all-star type player, maybe like a top 50 type guy, but like I still feel confident in him reaching that level. I think the same of Lonzo Ball. I think Lonzo Ball is going to be like right around, a top 50 player at some point in the NBA. I think Kyle Kuzma has a chance to be, a top 50-ish player in the NBA. I think all three of those assets are relatively close in terms of value. Kyle Kuzma has a ridiculously good contract. I would probably replace Michael Beasley with Josh Hart in this deal if I was the Pelicans. Right. Like I'll just be honest, I don't think that the Pelican or the Lakers are going to be like, no, we're getting Anthony Davis, you can't have Josh Hart. So I would just request Josh Hart, and I think that I would be able to get it. I really like Josh Hart. I think he's going to be a solid starter, maybe sixth man, who does a lot to really, really help your team win basketball games. He's a great guy to close in lineups with, maybe later on in his career, not quite there yet. But I am generally a fan of this offer. I think it's a real offer. And plus they're going to get like a top 20 pick probably in this draft. That's fine. You get off of the Solomon Hill deal. I don't really think that the Pelicans should be like trying to extract value in this deal by getting off of the Solomon Hill deal, because really that only has 1 year left on it. Like that's a deal that's easily get offable. Like you could deal Solomon Hill to a team that has, someone like Evan Turner and a first or something. Maybe not Evan Turner, because I think his deal only has 1 year left after this, but someone that has like 2 years left on a deal that's a bad deal, and then get an asset back to take on that deal. So I don't think Solomon Hill is like an incredible, value add getting off of that deal for him. So I just look at this deal and I'm like, it's a good offer. It's a reasonable offer. I think that all three of these guys, or all four of these guys, if you get Josh Hart, step into your starting lineup, step into your top six immediately and give you depth throughout the lineup, give you team control, give you player control, give you a measure of cost control for a team that needs it in New Orleans because of their attendance issues. I'm just waiting to see if I can get Zion Williamson or if I can get Jason Tatum.
So the question that you have to ask yourself is this deal that the Lakers have on the table right now, is that same deal going to be there on July 1st?
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes, then you wait.
Yeah. I just don't see, maybe you can't get Josh Hart, later on, or maybe you only get two of the three of Kuzma and Ingram, plus you get Josh Hart. Okay. I'm willing to gamble on the 14% that I get Zion and take the like slightly diminished Lakers offer then, or like take the small gamble that I get Jason Tatum in an offer and take the even if it does end up being slightly diminished. I'm just willing to take that bet if I'm Dell Demps.
The question is, what do you do with Anthony Davis for the rest of the year? Because now you have a lame duck on your roster for the next 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, I just kind of talked about that.
And that can kind of get uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I just kind of talked about that. What do you think of that scenario?
I'm thinking if you're Dell Demps, you shut him down. You don't let him play again for the rest of the year, because there's no use in winning there's no use for New Orleans to win another game the rest of the year.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. Yeah, I didn't even mention the lottery impact of it all. Like, you increase your lottery odds by sitting him.
The thing is, if you sit him for the rest of the season, you might not have to worry about signing Williamson.
Yeah, you might get him. Yeah, you could get him. So, yeah, like to me, if I'm Dell.
So then you might be able to get Ja Morant, too. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you on this. I am waiting. I am full on just waiting to see what happens here and then going from there. The other piece of this that is kind of funny to me is Lonzo Ball. LeVar is back in our lives, baby. LeVar Bell, according to Jungmizuk.
My man Ohm.
We'll just call him Ohm. Yeah. I've never met Ohm, weirdly.
No, I've known Ohm for almost 20 years. That's my guy.
Yeah. LeVar Ball tells...
Since we were interns.
That's cool. That's very cool. I don't have those kind of relationships, man. Those are nice journalism relationships. LeVar Ball tells ESPN that if Lonzo Ball is traded, he wants his son to go to Phoenix. We want to be in LA, but if he's traded, I don't want Lonzo in New Orleans. Phoenix is the best fit for him, and I am going to speak it into existence.
Does LeVar realize that's not how it works?
So it's a little bit funny that he thinks that's how it works, right?
If New Orleans trades for Lonzo Ball, then that's it. Lonzo Ball is in New Orleans for the next 6 years of his life because New Orleans has 6 years of team control remaining over Lonzo Ball. So Lonzo ain't going to Phoenix. He ain't going nowhere. I hope he likes gumbo. But the best part about this whole deal is the fact that LeVar is back.
I love LeVar.
LeVar is like, look, they can't trade us twice, right? So I might as well start talking.
See, like, I guess I should say I like the idea of LeVar and what he represents. There are some problematic aspects of LeVar that are at issue. But in general, I find the character of LeVar to be an interesting, funny one for the league.
I think he's interesting. I'm not sure. So, he's funny. He's unintentionally funny. Like, the fact that he's saying, well, we don't really want him in New Orleans. We want him in Phoenix, and it's just going to happen. Like that's comic relief right there. Yeah. But plus on top of that, I think LeVar is underestimating his son a little bit here because the reason why he wants him in Phoenix is because there's no other impediment to playing time there for him. So, and he's looking on New Orleans roster and he's like, well, Elfrid Payton is here, so he's going to have to compete or whatever. Look,
by the way, if I'm
Payton. He's a lot better than Elfrid Payton.
If I'm the Lakers, I'd probably try and grab Elfrid Payton for the rest of the year, by the way.
Why?
Because they need a point guard.
LeBron?
Yeah, that's true. You could play LeBron at point, but...
just put him at the point.
Yeah, that's true. Like, you need one defensively more than offensively, almost. Like, you just need someone that can guard quicker guards, because, like, you don't want to put that on LeBron in the playoffs. But, like, yeah, I get that.
You're going to... Look, the Lakers are about to sign... They're trying to trade for Jabari Parker. They're about to sign... They're about to sign Carmelo Anthony. Look, they're not stopping anybody, regardless. Okay?
So... Fair. It's a fair point.
You might as well just try to outscore everybody. And it's possible because they might go out and get J.R. Smith. They got KCP. You got LeBron. You're probably going to have Melo. You're probably going to have Jabari Parker. And you'd have Anthony Davis. Assuming this trade goes through. So, it's a roster that is not going to stop anybody, but they can score. They're going to be able to score points on people. Plus, if you keep Josh Hart, if this deal goes through and you keep Josh Hart, you can put Josh Hart on point guards because Josh Hart can guard pretty much anybody.
Yeah, that's fair. Josh's feet are a little bit slower than what I would hope for to guard a point guard, but yeah, you could make that work if this ends up going through without Josh Hart. Yeah, I just think it's a little bit funny Lonzo is trying to dictate. I do love the idea of him in Phoenix. Like, he would be an incredible fit there. They would be starting everyone between 6'6" and 6'8" beyond DeAndre Ayton. They could play switch 1 through 4 really you could switch 1 through 5 with DeAndre. You would have requisite rim protection because Lonzo, for a point guard, is a pretty good rim protector. Mikal Bridges is super long. Kelly Oubre is super long. Josh Jackson, athletic and semi-long. Like, it's an interesting scheme, and it's an interesting idea of putting Lonzo in Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, I think he and Devin Booker mesh incredibly well.
Yep.
I've always been in on Lonzo. He's a guy that to me is has a chance to be a really good two-way player in this league. So I understand the sentiment and everything, but here we go. At the same time, I think that Lonzo is going to be a starter on most teams that he plays on in this league.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Just the fact that you can play off the ball a little bit, and you can have him just lead the break. You can have him defend 1 through 3. You can have him, actually initiate half-court offenses. There are a lot of fits for Lonzo in this league. As maybe he's not the superstar player, but he can be an incredible secondary piece, I think. Let's move on. Let's talk about Kristaps Porzingis. So I talked about the Porzingis.
So you're just gonna make me sad on this podcast?
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I guess that as the Knicks fan, what did you think of Kristaps?
Well, what I think of him as a player?
Well, what'd you think of the deal?
I hated it.
That's the right attitude.
It was trash.
Expound.
It was absolutely dumpster juice. Okay, so first of all, Dennis Smith is not that good. He has a long way to go he has a long way to go in terms of running the team. He's not a great shooter. He's not a great ball handler. He's athletic, and he can get to the basket. Okay, that's fine. I like getting off of Tim Hardaway's contract. I like that part. You probably have to trade Courtney Lee because you're not trying to win, so you might as well trade him to another situation. I like acquiring expirings, but this is pennies on the dollar for one of the most talented guys in the league. This guy he's an all-NBA guy, and I just think that the only way this trade works is if you get Kyrie and you get Kevin Durant. If you get those two guys, then this trade looks like a genius move. If you don't get those two guys, then Steve Mills deserves a lot of criticism. I don't think that there's a lot of wiggle room in the outcomes there. But let me ask you this: What if the Knicks wind up with Kemba Walker and Tobias Harris instead of Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant? So
I don't like that at all.
All right then. So there's only one possible outcome.
Yeah.
that makes trading Kristaps Porzingis when first of all, you have at the very least, even if Kristaps says, okay, I'm not even going to go out and get a deal. I'm just going to sign the QO and then I'm going to go into next year as a free agent. You still have time. Why are you rushing this? You still had the cap space to go.
By the way, do you think for a second he was actually signing the qualifying offer? I don't at all.
Because you just tore your ACL, so why would you go and take a qualifying offer and expose yourself even more?
Yeah, like they I'm sure threatened that. I don't buy for a second that they're passing up a 4-year or a 5-year $100 to $125 million contract.
I would have told him to take the qualifying offer, call my bluff, and if you call the bluff, then you trade him. You don't trade him now.
So the problem is then that he gets essentially a no trade clause then, and the team that's trading for him doesn't get his bird rights afterward. So that is a problem if you're trying to trade him after. If he actually would take the qualifying offer.
But if he wants to be traded so bad, he's going to waive that no trade clause.
Yeah.
If he wants to be traded as much as he said he wanted to be traded.
But it kills his long-term value to the team that trades for him too. So like you don't get nearly as much back. If they
didn't get anything back from him in the first place. Okay, so you know what? It's gonna kill us trade. So we don't get Dennis Smith back. We get Langston Galloway.
So yeah, they're gonna get Dennis Smith, and they're gonna get 2 picks, probably around like 20th overall, right? Maybe 25th with the second one. So those are valuable picks. maybe Kristaps gets hurt one year and they get lucky and like the 2023/2024 pick that they get.
It, Sam.
Maybe that's valuable.
Kristaps is going to be 25-13, and Luka's going to be 25-8 and 7, and they're going to be awesome.
I agree with you. I think it's a great deal for Dallas. I think it's a great deal for no one else. I didn't like it for the Knicks. When we broke down the deal on Thursday, it was before the second first-round pick got thrown into the mix. Right. I think it helps a little bit. Like it helps tilt it like slightly back a little bit toward the Knicks, but it's still not a good deal for them, I don't think. Like if you're making me pick, would I rather build a team around Kevin Durant and Kristaps Porzingis or Kevin Durant and anybody else on this free agency market but Kyrie and I guess Kawhi would be on this list. Like we have to say Kawhi just because, he's in the mix at least. I would imagine that he's more likely to end up in LA. Like the Clippers think they're getting everyone too. So like, where does Kevin Durant go? Does he go to the Clippers? Does he go to New York? Does he stay in Golden State? Like, I don't think we know what's going to happen yet. Like, there are the rumors out there that Kevin Durant is going to New York. I just don't think anyone knows yet. And so much can change over the course of 5 months until these guys end up signing their free agency deals. We had the situation last year where it seemed like LeBron was going to LA and everyone kind of talked about LeBron going to LA all year. We've had situations like Paul George saying like, hey, I want to end up in LA. I want to end up in LA. And he gets sold on the culture in Oklahoma City. So we just don't know. You know what I mean? We don't know 6 months out, 5 months out, how this is going to end. And to me, the thread the needle you have to thread to make this a better deal if you're the Knicks is literally just Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. It has to be both. If they get both, then it's a win.
So let's say they get Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, right? Let's say all of that comes to fruition, right? Then at that point, you've made Dennis Smith redundant.
Yes, that's also a problem.
So why did you trade for him in the first place? I'm so triggered by that trade. It's ridiculous. Okay, as you said,
there are so many people out there like defending this deal for the Knicks and like smart people, like people whose opinions like I really respect. Like I think Kevin Pelton is fucking incredible at his job, and I think like Nate Duncan and Danny LaRue, smart people. Dan Feldman, smart person. Like, there are people out there that are like, you know what? In terms of value, like, this is a reasonable trade for Kristaps.
It's not a reasonable trade for Kristaps.
I get that perspective. I just really don't agree. Like, it's just like one of those deals where you look at it like from a value perspective in a vacuum as opposed to like value in terms of fits with roster, in terms of, what the holes that opens up for the Knicks are and just how much they have to thread that needle to make it work. It's a deal that potentially could be very good for New York. I just don't like the needle that you have to thread to get there. It's such a small window. It's such a small window that you have to get through, and I'm a little bit worried.
Well, if they strike it big in free agency, then yeah, it was a terrific deal. But if you strike out in free agency, even if you end up with Kevin Durant and let's say Jimmy Butler instead of Kyrie Irving, I still think that is worse than having Kevin Durant and Kristaps Porzingis. I would rather have those two. Well, for sure. But here's the thing. I mean, I don't think that the Knicks are going to completely strike out in free agency because I think because the market is saturated. Darn near half the league is free agents this summer. And, the Jazz have the Knicks have too much money and that they have enough money that somebody's going to take their money. It's just a matter of who, so.
Well, the who matters, though.
The who matters, obviously. And like you said, this trade becomes a home run if you sign Kyrie Irving, you sign Kevin Durant, and then you trot them out. And then, you Steve Mills, you do the media tour and you say, hey, I knew something in February. That's why I made the deal. Yeah. But if it doesn't go down like that, then this is you just gave away the best player in your franchise since Patrick Ewing.
Yeah.
Like, you just gave him away.
Yeah.
So there's no middle ground here. It's an either or. This is either a genius trade or it's one of the worst trades in the last 10 years. No in between.
The fact that it is a deal that has that large of an extreme window in terms of where this could end up does make it, like, to me, one of the absolute most interesting deals that we've seen in the NBA in years. It is a fascinating trade. Like, I was talking to a couple of executives afterward, and the thing that we just came back to was, like, you just don't see trades like this anymore. Like, teams that make trades now, most of the time it's something along the lines of, hey, we are going to we're going to try and reduce our luxury tax burden, or we're going to try and create free agency space. And that's the only part of the deal. It's not trading a superstar or trading an all-star to create cap space. So from that aspect of it, I just find it an incredibly interesting deal in a lot of ways. Like, it is, at the very least, a fascinating trade.
Yeah, I just wish it didn't happen to the team that I love. Go pull a fascinating trade with the Miami Heat or something.
It's another huge week across the NBA with some very exciting matchups, and there's only one place to get in on all the action. BetOnline.ag. Sports, casinos, virtual casinos, you name it. BetOnline.ag is CLNS Media's preferred sportsbook online. Use that promo code CLNS50 for that 50% sign-up bonus. That's CLNS50 at betonline.ag. Look, guys, I'm supposed to pick a game of the week here. I don't think there is any game that people are more excited about than this Lakers-Celtics game that happens on trade deadline day. Like, that is just NBA scheduling troll gods to the max. I love everything about the fact that ended up working out. It is just absolutely hilarious to me that ended up being on the schedule. Look, you don't want to be left on the sidelines when that game goes down. Go where the action is at betonline.ag. Again, CLNS Media and BetOnline are offering you a 50% sign-on bonus if you use our code CLNS with your first deposit. Use that promo code CLNS50 for your 50% sign-on bonus today. BetOnline.ag. They are your sportsbook experts, and you can go online and use that mobile phone to sign up today at betonline.ag. And when you do that, you can try in-game live betting where you participate with the action every single play. Look, just, how much we like to gamble on this podcast. I gamble every night on college basketball at the very least. So go to betonline.ag and join me in the action on that. Let's talk about the team sort of that you cover, but to do that, we're going to talk about Memphis now, Tony. Mike Conley has been on the trade market for a while. Marc Gasol as well. This is the week of reckoning for those two. Is this finally the time where the Grizzlies decide to move on? You have been at the forefront of reporting everything that is Mike Conley, potentially to Utah. I mean, I'll just kind of give the floor to you. I mean, what do you think of where Mike Conley stands? And, we'll start there before getting to Marc Gasol.
Well, I think from everything that I hear, it's a two-horse race between Utah and the Detroit Pistons. The Jazz have made an offer. The Pistons have made an offer. Both teams, according to my sources, have offered first-round draft picks, 2019 unprotected picks. The Jazz, to my knowledge, have added a second-round pick, and the Jazz package is wrapped around expiring contracts. I know that the Detroit package is wrapped around Reggie Jackson, the point guard who is making $80 million. So, I think right now Memphis is just kind of taking a while to just decide what they want to do with Mike. I think both teams, obviously Mike makes both teams better to me. With the Jazz, he instantly, to me, makes him and Donovan Mitchell one of the best backcourts in the league. Obviously, putting Mike in Detroit with Andre Drummond and Blake Griffin, adding Mike in Detroit, that gives them a third guy that can play a star role. So it's interesting. One thing, if you're Detroit, you have to decide project what the values of the first round picks would be. You have to project what your books look like from in subsequent seasons. So it's a lot to digest. And also, if you're Memphis, is still only a Monday night, and you're still a little over 2.5 days away from the deadline. We all know how the deadline works. Teams come in at the last minute. So I expect Memphis to take its time here.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable move. If I was Memphis, and if I'm Utah particularly, I would be probably trying to acquire Mike Conley. I love the idea of Conley in Utah. I think it's just a perfect mesh of fit, personality-wise, on court, everything. What do you kind of think about that?
Well, I can tell you that the Jazz really, really want this to happen. He's a guy who I think changes some things for the Jazz because, he gives them a second creator, and that offense really, really, really needs another guy that can create. If he takes some pressure off of Mitchell, Mitchell will take some pressure off of him. Conley's having a really good season. He's scoring 20 points a night. He's averaging 6 assists a night, and he's doing it in the slowest paced offense in the league. He's a guy that can score. Obviously, he can score above the 3-point line. He's one of the league's masters in the mid range, and he can get all the way to the basket. Most importantly, I think Mike Conley's best strength is that he is terrific. He is elite at running an offense and managing a team, and he does not turn the basketball over. So I think he makes the Jazz. I think he'd potentially make the Jazz significantly better. I wouldn't even say better. I think significantly better than what they are right now, and they're not bad right now. So but at the same time, he's 31 years old. He has an injury history from last season. Obviously, you can't mention Mike Conley without mentioning his contract, which still has 2 more years left. And if things go badly in terms of his health, or if his game somehow falls off a cliff in the next 2 years, then, that last year of that contract has the potential to look really bad. So with the Jazz and, with Detroit for that matter, what they are counting on is that Conley stays healthy, number one, and that his game stays on point through year 33, through his 33rd birthday. Is that a small gamble or is that a big gamble? And that's the question that you have to ask and answer for yourself.
Yeah, I tend to be someone that likes to bet on Mike Conley. I feel pretty good about him. The other aspect of this that I will add is, Utah is playing more up-tempo this year. They're running a lot more than what they have in the past. They're 11th in pace right now. But if they wanted to revert back to the pace that they've been playing, over the course of the last, 2 to 3 years, right? I think that they finished 30th, in 2 of the last 3 years in pace. They were not super high last year in terms of pace. They were probably in the bottom 5 of the league. Conley is a guy that has experience playing in a slow scheme like Memphis, or, he's a guy that, just given his speed, if you want to keep playing up tempo, you can do that as well. He just gives you a lot of optionality, I think, in the way that you run your team if you're Utah. And I think that is appealing as well. If you're looking at the Jazz, he'd be a pick and roll maestro with Rudy Gobert, who, by the way, Rudy Gobert, do you want to talk about Rudy real quick getting snubbed from the All-Star game, which was just kind of a joke, I thought?
Yeah, it was a joke. He should have been there before Karl Anthony Towns. He should have been there before LaMarcus Aldridge. He's having the best season of his career. He's developed into an offensive star as well as being a defensive superstar. He affects so much for the Jazz on both ends of the floor. And, you know, he's number one in the league in win shares. You know, he's just been terrific this season. And I thought it was really unfortunate that he was left out of the All-Star game. I thought it was a significant oversight.
Yeah, I agree. There's just no real. He's very clearly the best defensive player in the league right now. He's an underrated offensive player. Like, I think that just needs to be said, from my opinion as well. He's just a really, really good, valuable player. Conversation around him crying was kind of annoying to me as well. You know, if a guy wants to cry because he called his mom after, you know, getting snubbed, or his mom called him after getting snubbed, who the fuck cares? Like, just let the dude show emotion in the way that he feels comfortable showing emotion. Just that was one little small thing that frustrated me about all of this as well. In terms of, you know, what Memphis should do here, if I was them, I think this is the time to move Conley. I think that very clearly you have to move Marc because, you know, at the end of the day, Marc is a free agent this offseason, or at least he has an opt-out this offseason, to where he's going to be able to go out and make some, I don't want to say like crazy long-term money, but he can make, you know, maybe he gets 3 years, 60 on a market that is pretty flush with cap space, which is better, I think, than being on, what would it be? It'd be like 1 year, 22 million, something like that. Right. Off the top of my head. So I think that's the, you know, it's 1 year, 25 million. To me, that's getting 360 is probably a better deal for him.
But that's why, you know, that jibes with, you know, what I've been hearing, which is that Conley's garnered a lot more interest on the market than Gasol has.
And Mike's a better player too right now. I think it's just worth saying that,
because, you know, I think Marc has kind of regressed a little bit defensively. He's still really impactful offensively, but he's not the same defender that he has been in past seasons. You know, and you know, I think teams very, very rightfully believe that they can get him in the summer. So, you know, it's for, you know, at some point it doesn't make as much sense to put your chips on the table for Marc as opposed to Mike Conley.
So if you're, okay, let's say Charlotte, because I think Charlotte is the probably, you know, best fit for Marc, just in terms of like he could make a real difference for them. I think he could realistically push them to the playoffs, which is something that they want this year. If you're Memphis, are you willing to take Charlotte's first round pick, which is right now at number 16 overall? Let's say plus like Marvin Williams and Jeremy Lamb?
Or Marvin Williams or Malik Monk.
Maybe
you have more team control over Malik Monk than you do Jeremy Lamb.
You do, for sure. Like, again, though, if I'm like Charlotte, I don't know that I need to add Monk to that deal to outbid teams.
You want Marc Gasol, you give me Malik Monk.
So you're saying no first rounder, just Monk then? I wouldn't do both the first and joking. Monk.
I would do the first rounder, and I would match salaries.
The problem is that they can't. I think that's
a good return for Marc Gasol. The problem with all of this stuff, then that gives you 3 first round picks in a trash draft.
Yeah, it does. It's a problem. It's definitely a problem. You know, their pick may or may not be theirs this year. By the way, we don't know right now.
So what, you know, I mean, everything that Intel says is that, you know, the draft is obviously elite at the top, pretty good through the first 8, pretty good through the first 12 to 14. But when it falls off a cliff in the middle of the first round, it really falls off a cliff.
Yeah. So how do I feel about that? I would say I feel good about the draft through like 14-ish, and then I would probably not feel great the rest of the way. So
if you're Memphis, all the picks that you need to finish and need to convey in the top 14, top 15, top 16. Yeah,
it's true. And realistically, like even at like number 6 or so, I don't think you're getting a player that is, you know, an elite level, typical number 6 overall player in this draft. I just don't.
So Zion goes number 1.
Yeah, so here's how I would tier it, and I did this in the mock draft as well. I would say that number 1 is like, you know, a great number 1 overall pick to have. 2 and 3 probably slightly below average in comparison to what 2 and 3 are. RJ Barrett and Ja Morant. Like, I think Ja's a good player, but I think Ja's like a top 10 player in most drafts, not like a third player in a draft. Then I would say like 4 to 14. And I think that particularly from like 4 to 10, you're getting a guy that is either a project that you're really going to have to develop, or you're getting a guy that is probably a little bit below what that typical slot value is.
Okay. Would you take DeAndre Hunter in the top 6?
Yes. I personally would. I would take him.
I would as well. I would
take DeAndre right now, I think at like 4, to be honest.
So that's
go, where I would.
Zion, Ja, RJ, or Giant, RJ, Ja, DeAndre?
I would take DeAndre over Cam Reddish, I think. I think I'm at that stage.
DeAndre's really good.
Personally, that's where I'm at. I don't think that's how the rest of the league feels. Like, I'll just be clear about that. I think that most of the league has Cam ahead of DeAndre. I think most of the league, by the way, thinks DeAndre is more of like, a top 10 pick, not a top 5 pick. So yeah. I am high on DeAndre. Like, I will just say that. But I would take him at 4.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, and like I would take Cam at 5 probably. And then at 6, I'm throwing my hands up and I don't know what I'm doing.
Bol, Sam. Embrace him.
I'm not taking Bol in the top 20. I'm honestly, no, I would be real. I would not take Bol, period. Just, I would take a number of other players in this draft. That's just where I'm at.
Yeah, I know. I know you were teetering on that a couple of months ago when we last podcasted. Yeah. Now you've taken the dive.
I have taken the dive for reasons that.
What about Nasir Little?
Yeah, Nasir is really good. I think Nasir is going to be fine. I think it's a really bad fit in North Carolina. I've talked about this a lot.
Fit. Shouldn't have never went there.
Yeah, I think that's true in terms of on court. Like it's not a great fit. It's not an indictment of Roy. I don't think that it's Roy's fault that he's not playing. He has 2 seniors that know the scheme, that fit better in the scheme than Nasir. So I'm not blaming Roy Williams here, but you know what? I think he's still going to be fine when you get him to the NBA. He needs to improve his feel. Like he really just does not have feel for the game right now. If you watch him, he doesn't know where to be defensively off the ball. His just kind of knowledge of how to space the floor, I think, is not there yet. Like he just doesn't know how to play without the ball in his hands or when he's not defending the ball. So you're going to have to teach that. And I do think that there's something too. Is that a teachable skill? I do think it is, but I think it's just going to take a lot of time to do.
Right.
And like Jarrett Culver is shooting 3 for, I think, 33 right now in Big 12 play from 3. Like he's just totally fallen off. He just doesn't look very confident out there right now. I don't know what the fuck to do with Kevin Porter. I've been pretty clear about that.
I'll tell you what, Kevin Porter has a long way to go.
Yeah, he does. He's a long way to go. He's a long way to go.
He has a long way to go. Way to go. And almost everywhere. He's got a long way to go defensively. I'm pretty surprised how far away he is offensively. He's got to realize that, when he gets to a certain level, you can't just out physical everybody or out athlete everybody. And he's got a long way to go as a teammate.
Yeah, so, I mean, like getting suspended by USC is not a particularly great look.
Yeah, because you can do a lot at USC and not get suspended for it.
Yeah, like Jackson Hayes is interesting. I get the upside there.
I like Jackson Hayes. He reminds me a lot of Jared Allen.
Yeah, there's a lot of that there. I like KZ Apala. Like there are guys that I like, but there are guys that I like as like typical top 20 picks that are going to go in the 10 to 20 range, or like going to go in the 10 to like 14 range.
Are you still teetering on? Because the last time we talked about him, you were teetering on him. Are you still teetering on Roy Hachimura?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm still worried about the defense. He's kind of gets stuck in the mud sometimes defensively in space. You're going to have to teach him to shoot from the NBA line because the shot's a little bit flat and it has the hitch. Do I think he has touch? Yeah, like I think you can teach it. I think it's just going to take time. The guy that I keep going, it's funny. I keep going back and forth like terribly on Kobe White. I
actually like him a lot.
Yeah. The more that I watch him now, the more that I like him.
I like guys. I mean, he's a 6'6" point guard who is athletic and who can shoot the basketball.
Yeah. Like the thing that, So, like, I've talked to a lot of college coaches about Kobe White now, and the thing that they keep saying is it is incredibly hard to run Roy's scheme, like, at the point position, period. And the fact that he's doing it as a freshman is incredibly impressive to them. And the other thing that everyone says is, like, you don't realize how big he is until you see him on the floor.
Right.
Like, he is big for a point guard. He might be a bench player. Like, he might be a sixth man. He might be the next Lou Williams. That's a valuable player to me. Like, that's a guy that I want.
Okay, how much of a difference is there between Kobe White and Shai at the same stage?
Like 8 inches of wingspan. Like, pretty real.
The wingspan is unreal.
Yeah. I think Kobe's a little faster. I think Shai plays with more poise. I think he's never hassled, whereas you can kind of hassle Kobe, I think, sometimes. Yeah, I think that those are the big ones. I think Shai has better feel. I think Kobe's a little bit quicker. Kobe's probably a little bit better as a pull-up shooter. Shai is definitely better defensively, I think I would say. No question. So I would definitely rather have Shai than Kobe, but I do understand that as like tall point guards, there is a comparison to be made there.
Right. Well, I mean, I all of that goes to say that I think Kobe White is playing his way up in the draft. I think
I agree with you for what it's worth.
Yeah, and I think he's playing his way into a possible lottery pick.
Yeah, if he ended up going like 14th, I would not be surprised. He's going to be someone that I move up my board. Like I just need to at that stage. So you're in Utah. What do you know about Neemias Quetta at Utah State?
He is incredibly long. He is very, very athletic. He's a guy. He has tremendous timing. He's a quick jumper. He's on his second and third jump before most guys get off the ground after the first jump. Obviously, he's going to have to work offensively a little bit, but defensively, he is a true rim protector. He has completely changed Utah State's ceiling, just completely.
Yeah.
They have, before this season, they have never even come close to having success in the Mountain West Conference, and now all of a sudden they're darn near the second best team in the conference.
They're definitely the second best team in the conference, I think. And
obviously a lot of that is Sam Merrill, and a lot of that is, a lot of that is Craig Smith is just a tremendous coach. I mean, I don't think he's going to be there long.
Yeah, very possible.
But Neemias Quetta, to me, I think he's going to end up being the first legitimate pro in Utah State since when? When's the last time they had a pro?
J.C. Carroll?
J.C. Carroll didn't play in the NBA.
Yeah, but J.C. Carroll was good enough to play in the NBA. He's been like the best player or like maybe the best shooter in Europe for like 7 years now. Okay, so if we're saying J.C. Carroll's a pro, so we're saying since J.C. Carroll, he's going to be the first. I don't think I think he has a chance to be a first round pick. I would agree with you. I think he has a chance to be a first round pick at some point. He's very interesting. I'm like running through guys that are 7 foot, run the floor that well, Jalen Moore, protect the basket that well. They get picked in the first round. Jalen Moore. Jalen only got a 2-way, and then obviously he had his anxiety. He had the thing with his anxiety issues, and he hasn't really played since. I need to check in with Jalen, by the way. But Jalen got a 2-way. He wasn't drafted. I mean, this kid's gonna be drafted. And he's gonna. I watched him on Saturday. He's tremendous, and he's only a freshman. He's only scratching the surface of what he can be. Yeah, I am a big fan. Of his. No doubt about that. I think he is a future draft pick for sure. Definitely a future draft pick. Yeah. I'm trying to think who else do you like? Yell out some names that you like that you think are like underrated a little bit. Oh, Jalen McDaniel, or are you in or you're out on him? Jalen McDaniels. I'm in on Jalen McDaniels a little bit. We need to find out more about the court case that's happening up in Washington. Yeah. We need to know more about that. But in general, I do like Jalen McDaniels' game. I think he's super quick. I think he might be able to shoot at some point. Defensively, his motor is going to make an impact. He's really improved his skill level as a driver a lot this year. Yeah, I like Jalen McDaniels. I had him as
I know you're definitely in on his brother.
Oh yeah, he's a stud. Jaden is very good.
Yeah, Jaden is special.
Yeah, Jaden. I would have Jaden is, I think, number 2 right now in the 2020 draft class.
Yeah, he's tough.
Yeah.
Okay, so you in on PJ Washington?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, like I think he's like Patrick Patterson-y.
Oof,
you know?
That's tough. Okay, like, Patrick Patterson is a decade-long NBA player, so I can't hit on it for so much.
No, I don't mean that hatefully at all. I mean, he's struggling right now, and he struggled after signing that deal.
Okay, I got an interesting one, because this is the interesting one. The interesting one is Grant Williams, because Grant Williams doesn't have NBA size for his position, but he's an NBA player, and his motor is tremendous. But saying all of that, guys like PJ Tucker have been able to play in the league for a decade. So where are you at with Grant Williams?
I will have Grant Williams as a first-round grade. I absolutely will.
Is it because of how hard he plays?
Feel is off the charts. He is an incredible feel for the game. Right. Really, really good passer. Motor, he plays incredibly hard all the time. Really good rebounder. He has great touch, which makes me think you might be able to morph him into a shooter at some point.
Right.
Like I just kind of believe in that. Good length, obviously, as well. Just knows how to play basketball. I buy guys that know how to play basketball. It's the same with like Brandon Clark. I don't think Brandon Clark has like a set position in the NBA. I think there's a real chance that you might have to play Brandon Clark at the 5, but like I just buy that dude.
If anything about Brandon Clark, you know he's never going to beg for the basketball, considering who he's been playing with.
Right. Like he's going to be happy being a role player that is like, he's the best defensive player in college basketball, I think. And he knows his role. There's something to be said for knowing your role and just doing what you're supposed to do.
Okay. Where are we at on Eric Pascal?
I had him at 20 on my most recent mock draft. I will have him as, a 20-ish in my big board as well. He is 6'7", 6'11"-ish wingspan, if I remember correctly. Good jumper. I buy the jumper right now. I think he's a little bit worse defensively than what he gets credit for sometimes.
Is he Draymond Greenish?
No, I don't think he's that defensively. I don't think he's not that long, first and foremost, and his instincts defensively are not as good.
Okay.
But I think he is definitely a role player, and I think that player specifically, the 6'7", huge body, 250-pound, super athletic guys like that is an underrated asset in today's NBA. Because those guys can guard superstars, and maybe Pascal's not like an awesome defender, but it's just hard to have guys that have the bodies to guard super, and he's one of them.
That is interesting.
Where are you at with Pascal? Do you like him?
Oh, I love him. I love Pascal. Now, where are we at on the kid from Mercer, the undersized point guard that scores a ton?
The undersized point guard from Mercer.
Yeah, what was his name? Chris.
Oh, you're talking about Chris Clemens from Campbell.
Chris Campbell. I'm sorry, Chris. Yes, yeah. Saw him earlier this season. He's also a tremendous scorer.
I'm fascinated. I would like him to grow 5 inches. I would very much like him to be taller.
But he's not going to be taller. So is he in the league at 5'8"? Because he can score, and he's athletic, and he can shoot, and he's got the ball on the string, and he's got a great body, and he's explosive. Just pretty much everything that you need to play in the NBA except for size, he's got.
I'm going to say that I think he plays in the NBA at some point. He would not be someone that I would prioritize.
Okay.
I just don't like small. Like, I think it's way too hard to defend with small guards like that.
That's fair.
Yeah. Like, I do think that at some point, though, he will play and he will get a cup of coffee at the very least in the NBA.
All definitely fair. Definitely.
So I want to yell out one of my favorite guys. Fiondu Kabengele at Florida State. He is 6'9"-ish, something like that. 250 pounds. He is a just tough physical dude. He's strong as shit. He can knock down open threes. He's a good passer. He'll can knock down 17-footers. He's a really, really good defender as well. I think those Florida State guys in general are kind of underrated right now. I like him, and I like Terrence Mann at Florida State too.
Terrence, obviously he's athletic. Obviously he can defend. Like both of that. Really great length.
Passer. Great
passer. Leonard Hamilton never recruits anybody who doesn't have length. He's good. Is he Malik Beasley-ish?
I don't know if he's that offensive, that kind of shooter, maybe, but I do think that he is just a very, very good all-around player that you can teach to shoot enough to where he really defends, he really passes, and he's like the perfect fifth guy to have out there. You can trust with tough defensive assignments, and you can trust to knock down an open three.
Are you in on Bruno Fernando? Because I'm not.
Not as much as some people are. I think he's going to go in the first round, and I will probably not have a first-round grade on him.
Yeah. And are you in on Romeo Langford? I'm leery. To me, somebody of his talent should have his team better than what it is right now.
So I think that I like him if he can shoot. Like, that's kind of a cop-out. But I like the idea of him if he can shoot it. Because if he can shoot it, then I think it opens up the rest of his offensive game. If he can't shoot it, I don't really know what you do with him on the floor. His shot is the biggest swing skill in this draft, I think.
Right.
For any player. Like, if he can shoot it, he is a legit NBA starter, I think. If he cannot shoot it, I don't know what he is in the NBA.
That all makes sense.
Trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to talk to you about. How is life going in Utah, Tony? Is there anything exciting going on?
I haven't played basketball in 11 days.
It's a lot for you.
So, because, we had the road trip last week, and then ever since I got back, everything has been crazy. Now we're on trade deadline week, so I can't, it's like I feel like if I go and play 2 hours of ball, a trade will happen, and I'll miss it. So
I'm gonna try and go to a workout here, like right after this. My fiance will get home, and we'll go and try and go to the gym or something. And I have serious concerns that I'm gonna miss something. Like, I think I'm terrified that something is gonna happen.
I feel like my life is over until Thursday at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. That move that Drew Holiday just put on somebody, he just put it in and out on somebody and just went to the basket. He's so good. Drew Holiday is so good.
He is genuinely, I think, one of the 5 most underrated players in the league still.
Yeah.
Even after last year's playoffs, I still don't think enough people give him credit for how good he is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
He's an incredible defender. He doesn't get enough credit offensively. Like, he is just a stud in every way. Like, if Philadelphia, I would rather have him than Jimmy Butler for that team.
I would as well.
Like, in a vacuum, I think Jimmy's a better player, but for them, I think Drew is a better player.
But Drew's not going to beg for touches ever.
Right. And then, you're watching that game. I'm watching what is just a beautiful 41-38 halfway through the second half Louisville Virginia Tech game.
Yes, stop watching that game.
I bet on Louisville. I have to.
But tell Donovan Mitchell that his guys need to start scoring a little bit more.
Clearly, that is the key. Like, the fact that this is a game right now, I mean, I guess Virginia Tech's at home, but like, Virginia Tech's without Justin Robinson still. They're playing 6 deep right now. I mean, get your shit together, Louisville. Come on.
Buzz is really good, though.
This is where I'm at. Tony, tell the people what you've got coming up at The Athletic. Tell the people where they can find your work.
You can find me at Tony. Wait a minute. What is my Twitter handle? T Jones on the NBA. And you can find me at The Athletic. I have some trade stuff up there. I keep you guys updated as stuff progresses. And it'll be interesting to see what the Jazz look like, or whether they look the same on Thursday afternoon.
Go follow Tony. If Mike Conley gets traded, I would bet you he is the first person to report it, at least if it's to Utah, maybe even if it's not to Utah. Tony is terrific at his job, so go follow him on Twitter. Go subscribe to The Athletic, where I also work. I'll have a big project going up at some point here within the next little while. I guess that's about it for right now. We'll be back a little bit later this week. Maybe we'll try and do, we'll We're definitely going to do a Thursday podcast for the trade deadline. I'm not sure exactly what else, though. So until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.